And together with us today in our third session is Associate Professor uh, Rana Dajani. She is an expert in uh, molecular cell biology, and she got the doctorate from the University of Ohio, Iowa.
Iowa.
Yeah, Iowa, and currently uh, the Slakova Fellow at Jaspoon School of Leadership at the University of Richmond, Harvard Radcliffe, and also Harvard Radcliffe Fellow at the Fulbright Foreign Student Program, Jordan to the United States, and also Fulbright Visiting Scholar Program, Jordan to United States in 2012. And we can see that there are a lot of achievement. And honestly speaking, when we do some research to look for good speakers for us to inspire the young generation, the organizing community find that you are one of the best expert in education, in the education line, in order for us to inspire the young generation who love to pursue their career in education. Some people say that those lecturers, those professors, they earn less compared to businessmen. Young generation, sometimes they would like to become businessmen because of they said, okay, I can earn more. But we don't know that actually earning, I'm a businessman, by the way. When we do business, the main purpose is not money. When we do business, the main purpose is to serve others. And when we reflect back, actually, the purpose of becoming an academician, becoming an expert in education field, also to bring impact to the community. And without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Professor Rana to share your wisdom, to share your experience, to inspire our young Muslim generation. I hand over it to you, Dr. Professor Rana.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me to be part of the Ummah Summit. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everybody, wherever you are on the globe. I'm so proud and happy to be part of this initiative. I've been to Malaysia, and I love everybody there, and I think this initiative also starting from there is amazing. And because of COVID-19, although it's a terrible thing and it's affecting a lot of people, but I'm a very optimistic person. My husband says I see an ocean in a drop of water, and I see COVID-19. The silver lining here is that we are able to meet and talk and discuss and share our dreams to hopefully work together to make a difference in this world.
Inshallah, inshallah.
All right, so I'm sharing my screen, and I hope everybody can see it. All right. So the title of my talk is Seeing What Everybody Sees, but Thinking What No One Has Thought. This is a famous saying by a Nobel Prize physicist. Go try to find him. That's something for you to foster your curiosity. Because we're all the same. Nature hasn't changed, but we as humans, each one of us is unique and different. And so the way we see the world is unique and different. And that's how we can add to the body of knowledge, to what's around us, by enriching the world with our perspective. When I introduce myself, in addition to the introduction that was made, I like to say that I do 5 roles in my life. And in English, when you talk about your role, you say you wear a hat. I don't wear a hat, I wear a scarf. So I talk about my 5 scarves. And my first one is I'm a mother. I have 4 children, and that's the most one I'm proud of, because That's the only role that I can make, and nobody else can be in my place. So it's a very unique and very important role because it's bringing up the next generation. What is more important than that for the survival of humanity? My second role is I'm a teacher, an educator. I was a school teacher for 10 years, and then now at the university, I'm a professor. And the second most important role any human being can play after being a parent is being a teacher, because children, if they're not at home, they're at school. And so the role of the teacher is very, very important. And if anybody can stand in front of a class of fifth graders, they can do anything in the world because they know everything about you. The fifth role is that I'm a scientist, and my first field of science is studying the genes, the genetics of ethnic populations in Jordan. And for that, we actually published in Nature our work. But that work, when we discovered a gene for diabetes, led me to go to a field that I never expected. And it was the curiosity that led me. And that's the hallmark of a scientist, the hallmark of an entrepreneur, the hallmark of being human is to be curious and to keep asking questions. And it's part of who we are as a part of our evolution, and that's how we survive. But it's also part of our religion, our culture, to always ask questions and be curious and use our brain. As the Quran always reminds us, think, reflect, use your brain. And so that led me to try to question, can I work using stem cells to understand these genes? And that led me to create a committee, and ultimately with a group of people, we created the first country to have a law that governs using stem cells and research and therapy. So this shows you that you go places you never anticipated, but you learn so much, and it makes you stronger and much more imaginative. My fourth role is that I'm a social entrepreneur, and I started a program called We Love Reading to encourage children to read for fun, which I'll talk about later. Now, the fifth scarf, I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to invite you to read my book, which is called 5 Scarves, Doing the Impossible, which was reviewed in Nature. And there's an Arabic version and an English version as well. So read it and you'll discover the fifth scarf. So today I'm going to share with you 2 stories. Storytelling is very important. And I'm very well known for being a storyteller. Why? Because human beings, I believe, in the past, there were 2 groups of people. A group of people that sat around a fire and told stories, and another one that looked at those telling the stories and said, oh, you're wasting your time. But you can guess today which group is the one that survived. It was the storytellers. There's stories in the religion books. We learn from stories much better because our barriers are down and we can absorb and learn the lessons. So the first story I'm going to share is, as a scientist in Jordan, professor at my university, practicing my nature of seeing what everybody sees but thinking what no one has thought, the Syrian refugee crisis was unfolding. And many, many Syrians came to Jordan. And by the way, Syria and Jordan, there were no borders before colonialism. It's when colonialism came in the early 20th century and created these borders that separated us. So we have families who are on the southern side of Syria and on the northern side of Jordan. So when the war started, these were family coming over to visit family, to take refuge. And it's only later with international NGOs that the term refugee was used to describe family and friends, and alienated to a certain extent the 2 groups. So it's very important to be careful what words we use, because words matter and words shape and form how we think in our mindset. So seeing the crisis unfolding and realizing that the percentage of children, adolescents among this population is over 65%, and how they are suffering from this war. And the question became, how can I understand what is the impact of this trauma, the trauma of war, the trauma of displacement on these children, and therefore their lives in the future? And what other programs are being rolled out and implemented to help these children, and if these programs are effective or not? And so there was this program that was implemented called No Lost Generation, where they were trying to boost the psychosocial aspects of these adolescent children through various activities. So a group of scientists from Yale University approached me, and we talked together, and we said, we're going to study the impact of this program on these children. Now, as you can see, this was a big team from different scientists all over the world. We were the lead scientists in Jordan, and what we insisted upon, me, the lead in Jordan, was that we would lead what's happening in Jordan, and we would guide these scientists coming from outside of Jordan on what is culturally appropriate, what is relevant, and we would be the ones ourselves, because we're Jordanian, and we collected a team of Syrians to actually conduct the research. This is very important, that we take responsibility, and we guide how the research is done, because with all the knowledge and expertise from other scientists from other places, you can learn from them, but ultimately it is us who knows our community better and knows what surveys to use, how to make sure that they're asking the right questions, and then when the results come, to understand the results and analyze them within the context and the culture. So this is very important, to have pride and have confidence in yourself when you partner with other people, so that you have equal partnership with no power dynamics. Everybody's equal on the table. And so what we did first is we talked to these children and their parents to get consent. And the way we did it is that we explained everything to them. And we told them, listen, we are you, right? We're Jordanian and Syrian. Actually, by the way, I'm half Syrian, half Jordanian. My mother's from Aleppo, and my father's from Jerusalem, and I'm a Jordanian citizen. So I said, we're in the same thing together. We're all going through this trauma. So let's take control of ourselves and say, we want to understand what's happening to our bodies. And we want to evaluate these programs that are coming from outside to see, do they really work? And if they don't, how can we make them better? So rather than waiting for somebody to save me, we told these kids, we're going to work together. And we raised their awareness to science, because we explained the whole science. And I'll show you in a minute how. Of course, everybody was on board and everybody was excited. We want to be part of this research project. So the first thing we did when we started assessing the psychosocial aspects of the children is we have self-reports. So they reports about how stressed they are, how anxious, about their mental health, and so on. But my team told me the children, after they ask all these traumatizing questions, they go home really feeling upset. So my team said, can't we develop a survey or a questionnaire that's more positive? And from this, we actually created the first survey for resilience. Resilience, because people always ask the refugees about how you're feeling bad. Nobody asks them, how do you make yourself feel better? And that's resilience. How do you build your resilience? So we created this resilience tool in Arabic, which we rolled out and published. And Science, the very well-known magazine, journal, wrote about us in Science about our work on resilience. But then we wanted to ask another question. But before that, we realized that the program works for stress and trauma and reduces it, but it doesn't work for resilience. So now they're changing the program to make it work better to build resilience by involving the community, because the program originally was only about individuals. But you cannot build resilience without your family and your community. So that was a very important lesson, why we, the local people, are very important to guide the research. But self-report surveys are not always the best. So we thought we want to look at biology, biomarkers, because your body doesn't lie. And we wanted to see, could we track these biomarkers over time? And will people accept them? Again, we went back to the children and their families, and he said, listen, the best way to evaluate how stressed you are is by looking at a hormone called cortisol, which is in your blood. Now, this hormone rises when you become stressed. And we told them we could take blood, but that's kind of, not everybody likes blood and it's messy. So we said we could take saliva, but that's messy too. Imagine spitting into a tube So we thought, but science has discovered a new way, which we know that cortisol deposits in your hair. And because your hair grows a centimeter a month, we can take actually some of your hair and we can use that to see your cortisol and how it has changed over time in your hair. The kids were so excited and the parents were saying, yeah, we could have haircuts and everybody's going to be on board. Although a lot of the people coming from outside of Jordan thought this is not going to work, people are not going to agree. I said, why? We're in this together. And so that we went and we did that, and we showed that the intervention actually reduced cortisol in the hair of these children after being part of the program. So that was fantastic. And then Usually when you ask a good question, you don't just answer it in the research, you come up with 10 more questions, new ones. And so the new question that we came up with the children and their parents is that, what about DNA? Does the trauma affect our DNA? And then the other question is, if I'm a mother and I'm pregnant and my DNA is affected by the trauma, do I transfer that signature on the DNA to my children and to my grandchildren? So now today, this is what we're researching, and this data is still not available because we're still working on it. But this shows you how your curiosity leads you to keep asking questions and making discoveries. And my daughter calls this the immortal kiss of our grandparents, how their impact on us stays for a long time. This is epigenetics. And this is my team. Now, my second story in the last few minutes that I have. Before I talk about the second story, a movie was made about us called Terror and Hope, the Science of Resilience. So you can watch it, look it up online. And they say it's going to be nominated for an Oscar. We'll see. But it's the first movie that talks about science under humanitarian conditions from the perspective of the scientists. And to boost our research, I created a mentoring program for female scientists all over the world, starting from Jordan, and then the Arab world, and then the whole world. And we called it the 3 circles of alimat. And alimat is a word in Arabic that means female scientist, speaking to the Islamic civilization and the importance of female scholars and scientists in our history. So you can look at that mentoring toolkit because it's free. Anybody can use it to help boost young female scientists or even young male scientists to give them support. Now, the second story is about our role as scientists doesn't stay in the hall where we teach or in the classroom or in the lab where we work. We also have a responsibility to our society to make a difference outside, to use the knowledge we have and the expertise. So from that, as a scientist, I realized, again, seeing what everybody sees, but thinking what no one has thought, that children don't read for fun. Although reading for fun is so important for the imagination, vocabulary, learning about other people, and becoming the hero and you read about to get the confidence to make a difference in your world. And so I asked, why don't children read? I found out it's because they don't love to read. Then the question became, so if they don't love to read, how do I make them love to read? And it turns out it's when you have parents or caregivers who read aloud to you, a role model. And why is that? Because as the child is growing up, the neurons in their brain are making connections that associates reading for fun with security and happiness with your mom or dad that stays with you when you're older. So when you're sad, you like to read, and when you're happy, you like to read. So from that, I thought, I found the solution to make children fall in love with reading. Parents should read aloud to their children. But I can't knock on everybody's door. And even if I pass a law or the government does, that doesn't mean people are going to listen. So I thought, like Prophet Muhammad, you are the protector and a guardian, or like Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world. So I started reading aloud to the children in my neighborhood in the mosque. From this, the program We Love Reading started. So We Love Reading is about adults and youth reading aloud to children in their native tongue, in a public space. I started in the mosque, it could be anywhere. On a regular basis, stories from the culture of the child. And then the children line up and take books home and start reading. So they become the champions at home for reading. And we developed a training program to train the people. We call them ambassadors, how to read aloud as an art and how to become social entrepreneurs because they have to figure out the space and the place and the time. And we tell them you have to pay it forward to tell others. And that's why We Love Reading became a social movement and spread all over the world. And these are some of statistics. And it's not just it's spread in the developing world, it's spread even in the quote unquote developed world. Because the impact is not just on the children, it's also on the adults and on the community. The adults become change makers themselves, leaders, and the community starts knowing each other and supporting each other and realizing that I don't have to wait for somebody to come and save me. And so we would call the social movement because it's about shared values universally. And anybody can start it wherever they are in the world. And because I'm a scientist, I thought, that's not enough. I want to study the impact. And I want to invite scientists. We will have to work in a team. I'm a molecular biologist. I don't understand how to study the impact on education. So I invited scientists from Brown University, and we looked at the impact on executive function, like memory, cognition, and we showed that the program improved it, especially for those from lower social economic status. And we also studied empathy with the University of Chicago, and we showed that We Love Reading increases empathy 100-fold in these children. And we also showed that if you read particular stories with particular themes, like the environment, you change the behavior and attitudes of the children towards the environment. And then we studied the impact on adults, becoming leaders and social entrepreneurs, and the community in general as well. And this is data still coming. We created our own children's books about gender, disabilities, refugees, and bullying, as well as the environment to enrich children so they have more books. So we focused on, so it started as a program for education and early childhood, but it ended up about women empowerment because most of our ambassadors are women. It ended up about mental health because when children are reading a book, this boosts their resilience and reduces their stress as well as their parents because now they can talk about something that's safe. And also it boosts social entrepreneurship for youth to think outside the box. And that's why we succeeded because we're very focused and we won multiple awards. New York Times wrote an article about us and we won the UNHCR Nansen Award just last month. Now with Corona, we moved everything online. So now it's in almost 10 languages. We need to do it to Malaysia. So anybody wants to volunteer to do that because people are at home. And so I'm gonna end here and say, this is the butterfly effect. When a butterfly flutters its wings in China, there's a hurricane in the Atlantic. And that's what you can do. Every one of you is special and has something special to give. Your DNA is different from anyone else that has ever lived. So go out there and make a difference. And if somebody tells you you're just a drop in the ocean, tell them, what is the ocean? But millions of drops. And write your story because we want to hear what you're doing. You are the role model for the next generation. And if you don't write, somebody else will write. And we can't blame them if they write something wrong about us. So we owe it to us, ourselves, and to the next generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rana, for your presentation. And I think it is a very powerful methodology when you share together with us how you encourage a student, a young generation to read. Even sometimes when we don't have time to read, kids, or maybe sometimes the kids doesn't know how to read, but we need to read for them. And and reading is the first first verses that we sent to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is amazing. And we have one question, Dr. Rana, from Mr. Said Ismail. The question is, question and questioning is important from what you present. In discovering, in Discovery Channel, it says, question everything. But how do we encourage people to question? Or how do we encourage in school for the student to have the feeling to ask question? Because among the student, normally people, do you have any question? No, they're silent. So what is your suggestion? What is your thought?
That's a great question. It's a very important question. And the way to do that is, children are born curious. Children are born asking questions. If you have children or you have relatives with children, they're always asking why. Why is the sky blue? Where did the sun go? Why? The problem is that parents tell them that's enough. You're asking too much questions. I'm tired. Stop asking. And so the poor child stops asking because you stifle him. And then when he goes to school, also the teachers, not all of them, of course, but a lot of our teachers, when a child keeps asking, either the teacher doesn't know and feels embarrassed to say, I don't know, right? And so he says, stop asking and stops the child. Or tells them, that's how it is, right? They don't give a real answer. And so how do you change that? So first, as parents, encourage your children to keep asking. And as teachers, you have to encourage them. You have to keep asking them. And you have to be a role model. So you can start asking questions to your students or to your children if they have stopped asking. Like, hey, why do you think the sky is blue? And then if the child answers, keep asking. Why? So you play the role of the child, and that will encourage the student who has stopped thinking to restart his brain to keep asking questions. And also, if somebody asks you a question you don't know, be very honest and say, I don't know the answer. Let's work together to find the answer. Let's join hands. So when I teach at the university, I tell my students the first day, I said, I'm so excited to see you because I can't wait to listen and hear your questions, to find a question I don't know the answer to, so we can, go have fun and find the answer. So you have to, have the spirit, and that becomes contagious.
Yeah. So it is a kind of we need to provoke the kids
Yes,
to give question, to ask question.
absolutely.
And I can say that you have a lot of program and initiative for the community, and I believe that there are a lot of area that our young generation should grab the opportunity to learn from you, to be inspired by what you have been done. And thank you very much. And our There is another comment in the Facebook from Ustazah Isfadiah Muhammad Dasuki. She will be joining us for tomorrow, I think. And she said, splendid sharing, mashallah. Love you from
Alhamdulillah.
Ustazah Isfadiah. So I will connect you. You said
Great.
just now to translate into Bahasa Malaysia. Then we have the right person here.
Yes. Now we have 60 countries. Now it will be 61. Great.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
Alhamdulillah.
It is a good platform. I can see that pandemic, the COVID-19 is bring a lot of hikmah for all of us. We don't know each other. There is no way for us to connect before this, but because of the pandemic, we connect each other, and inshallah, one fine day we'll have a good and a bright future for the ummah, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rana, for your time,
You're-
your
I
spirit,
thank you.
your wisdom that you share with us. We, inshallah, it will inspire all of us to make this world a better world. Islam is rahmatan lil alamin, and it is the slogan carried by the International Islamic University Malaysia. Islam is the rahmatan lil alamin. So inshallah, we will have more time with you again, inshallah, and we plan to have this Ummah Summit twice a year, and we hope that one fine day we will bring you to Malaysia, inshallah.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very
Jazakum Allah
much.
khair.
Wa iyyakum, wa iyyakum.